Greetings, friends. Today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine as of November 18th, 2024. A massive number of events unfolded, so let's get started. Naturally, the main topic over the past 24 hours is the large-scale missile strikes across Ukraine. Numerous video materials and various analyses were published, including reactions from individual political figures. Let's take things step by step. We'll start with maps showing the flight paths of Russian targets. According to sources and analysts, the Russian Federation used almost the entire range of its missiles and drones over the past 24 hours. This included Kh-22, Kh-59, Kinzhal and Zircon missiles, Kr-101 cruise missiles, attack drones, and unidentified ballistic missiles. Strikes were carried out using Iskander systems, with a massive number of launches. This has been one of the most powerful and extensive missile strikes on Ukraine's territory since the start of the special military operation. Ukrainian sources claim that during their efforts to repel this attack, they managed to intercept a significant number of targets. Some figures were provided. According to Ukrainian sources, a total of 144 aerial objects were destroyed, including 102 missiles and 42 drones. Ukrainian forces reportedly managed to intercept a ship-launched Zircon hypersonic missile, 8 Kinzhal missiles, a large number of Caliber missiles, and almost all Kh-101 cruise missiles, among others. However, they were unable to intercept ballistic missiles launched by Iskander systems. That said, I'd like to share my opinion and caution you against fully trusting all published information. I am convinced, though I have no concrete evidence, that the Ukrainian side has likely inflated the number of missiles used and the effectiveness of their air defense systems. While this is my personal impression of the past day, it's something to keep in mind. Despite all this, the primary goal of these strikes was evidently the destruction of Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Let's examine some footage from Rivne, where a triple combined strike on a 330/110 kilovolt substation occurred during daylight hours. 3 cruise missiles hit the target, completely destroying the substation. This resulted in significant power supply problems in Rivne Oblast and likely affected neighboring regions. While these strikes targeted energy infrastructure, one crucial fact stands out. The Russian Aerospace Forces, VKS, failed to achieve a blackout, as there was no widespread power outage by the evening of November 17th and the morning of November 18th. This raises the question of whether there will be additional strikes. Based on previous patterns from 2023 and 2024, it's likely another strike could occur within the next 24 hours. If not, it would prompt speculation about Russia's actual objectives in targeting energy and military infrastructure. Another noteworthy event is the timing of the missile and drone strikes, which occurred shortly after a conversation between German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The discussion reportedly lasted nearly an hour, and it was agreed to maintain contact groups for communication between the two leaders. Ukrainian President Zelensky had strongly opposed Scholz making the call, fearing negative consequences. After the call, Zelensky recorded a video expressing concern, calling it a potential Pandora's box that could lead to further negotiations with Putin. Throughout the day, Ukraine attempted to manage the situation by countering crises and boosting morale among soldiers and civilians. Ukrainian air defense operations were emphasized, with high interception figures being a focal point. Additionally, footage from western Ukraine showed several cruise missiles flying over Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast, along with fires reported in the region. The most significant footage today depicts a cruise missile flying over western Ukraine, followed closely by an F-16 fighter jet attempting interception. Zelensky confirmed yesterday that F-16s were deployed to support Ukraine's air defense operations. These developments underline the complexity of the situation, as well as the challenges both sides face in achieving their objectives. It is reported that the F-16s managed to intercept up to 10 missiles. Whether this is true or not is less important. The key point is the psychological impact, boosting morale by showing the public that the much-anticipated F-16s are now in Ukrainian skies and slowly adapting to the current reality. However, it is worth noting another significant development from yesterday, which involved an airbase in the town of Starokostiantiniv. the Russian army carried out a combined strike on this location, likely anticipating that Ukraine would deploy F-16s to intercept Russian missiles. Preemptive strikes were launched on airfields in western Ukraine, possibly aiming to prevent the use of F-16s as air defense assets. Today, there were reports of heavy strikes on Odessa, accompanied by the publication of footage showing numerous cruise missiles flying unimpeded over the city's skies, with no interception attempts reported. Up to 5 such missiles were observed, along with footage of German drones operating overnight, tracking and targeting Ukrainian air defense systems. By evening, footage emerged showing the aftermath of these strikes. In Mykolaiv, German drones also conducted strikes, targeting air defense positions and industrial facilities. In Kryvyi Rih, daytime strikes were likely carried out using either cruise or ballistic missiles, possibly Caliber missiles. Footage shows significant smoke on the horizon near Kryvyi Rih airfield. Additionally, reports indicate that a missile strike damaged or destroyed the Kremenchuk thermal power plant. The dam in the area was also reportedly damaged, with part of its structure either destroyed or partially affected. This marks yet another attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Now let's move on to the front line, where the Russian armed forces continue their offensive. Starting with the southern Donetsk direction, near Velika Novosilka, the situation is evolving. Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced that troops from the Eastern Group had successfully cleared and established control over the settlement of Makarivka. However, according to Ukrainian and neutral mapping services today, Ukrainian forces launched a series of counterattacks and reportedly regained full control of the village. The situation remains unclear, and for now, Makarivka is considered a contested zone. We are awaiting additional information, potentially images with flags from the northern or southern parts of the village, to clarify the situation. Next, we move to the Suki Yali River, where Russian forces are continuing their offensive. The fighting is concentrated on a key stronghold located between the villages of Konstantinopolske and Uspenivka. This stronghold is critical to the Ukrainian grouping in the area, positioned within a pocket surrounded by the villages of Ilinka, Yelizavetivka, Hanivka, and Vesely High. Russian units are advancing from 2 directions, both from the south toward Uspenivka and from the area of Dalny. Footage of objective control confirms progress on the southern axis. Footage was published by Ukrainian sources showing Ukrainian forces engaging Russian army forward positions. This specific location marked a point of advancement for Russian units. Based on this footage, updates to the maps were made. Yesterday, this area was designated as a grey zone or contested territory. Today, it is clear that Russian forces have managed to approach a stronghold within the area of responsibility of the 72nd Mechanized Brigade. Analyzing the geolocations and footage from this week, it appears unlikely that the Russian army will directly assault the company-level stronghold or the village of Uspenivka. Instead, Russian forces seem poised to move north toward the settlement of Konstantinopolske, the Suki Yali River, or potentially a nearby structure named Gigant, which may be an industrial facility. Objective control data supports this hypothesis. Over the past week, this segment of the front has been the source of the most frequent footage of artillery, airstrikes, and drone operations. It seems probable that Russian forces aim to flank Ukrainian positions, reach the Suki Yali River, and potentially attempt to cross it to advance toward the settlement of Yantan. Yantan has also been regularly targeted by FAB airdropped bombs. If Russian forces succeed in capturing Yantan, there would be little strategic sense in incurring further losses by fighting for Uspenivka and its stronghold. From Yantan, key roads could be controlled, enabling encirclement of Ukrainian units in this area. Moving on to Kurakov, active combat operations are ongoing north of the Kurakov reservoir. Early in the day, neutral and pro-Ukrainian mapping services reported that Russian forces had captured Novoilinka and reached the outskirts of Berestki. By the end of the day, reports emerged of initial clashes for control of Berestki itself. Initially, the territory was marked as contested or part of the grey zone. Later, Ukrainian sources published videos of FPV drone strikes on Russian assault units moving across fields. 2 specific incidents were geolocated, one within Novoilinka itself and the other slightly northeast of Berestki. Based on this evidence, further map updates were made. Next, we turn to Selidov, where Russian forces are steadily advancing westward. Over the past 24 hours, they secured additional company-level strongpoints along the defensive network. Currently, Russian forces control approximately 70% of this defensive line and are moving further west toward Ukrainka. Full control over Urivka has also been noted, and Ukrainian mapping services have confirmed that Russian forces now fully control the village of Hryhorivka. Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced control over Hryhorivka, and later footage showed a Russian flag on the western part of the village. Today, Ukrainian sources corroborated this claim. The offensive is progressing, and many military experts anticipate that combat for the village of Petrivka, located slightly northwest of Hryhorivka, will either begin soon or has already concluded. There is an observed increase in combat activity along the railway line between the settlements of Mirnohrad and Novohrodivka. This appears to indicate preparations for a major assault. Currently, Ukrainian forces are regularly counterattacking, which indirectly confirms some level of advancement by Russian forces. In this area, forward positions of Russian assault units have been identified, and these positions are frequently targeted by Ukrainian units from the 425th Separate Battalion. Intense combat is ongoing. The critical task for Russian forces now is to clear this network of fortified positions. Footage has emerged from the southern part of Mirnohrad, showing the destruction of a Ukrainian tank. Additional footage depicts drone strikes in the same area, indicating that the southern part of Mirnohrad is gradually being subjected to clearing operations. It is likely that Russian forces may launch an offensive in this direction in the near future, though this will probably occur only after operations on the southern Donetsk front are concluded. Moving on to the city of Toretsk, fighting continues, with the primary focus on the Zabalki neighborhood. Throughout October and November, control of this area has shifted numerous times, with maps being updated as many as 10 to 20 times. Today is no exception. Based on footage, primarily published by Ukrainian sources, map updates were made in favor of Russian forces in Zabalki. Recent footage suggests that Russian troops have nearly divided the Zabalki neighborhood into two sections. It appears that the immediate priority for Russian forces is to clear the southern portion of Zabalki before moving on to the northern section. Mapping services, both pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian, have similarly marked the southern portion as contested. Once this area is secured, Russian forces are expected to advance toward the Centralna mine. In Chasiv Yar, no significant changes have occurred over the past 24 hours. However, yesterday, footage of combat in the city center was published. In a critical video, 2 Russian soldiers are seen occupying a building directly across from the Chasiv Yar citadel. Shortly after taking positions, several Ukrainian drones targeted this building, which was geolocated as a forward position. This footage indicates that Russian forces have advanced very close to this stronghold. The ongoing battles for Chasiv Yar appear to be entering their final stages. This phase may last weeks,